The city of Tampa is revamping a program that alerts landlords whenever a tenant is arrested. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over a program in the city of Tampa, Florida, where basically the city or the police will alert the landlord about tenants who've been arrested for crimes, right? Now, this is like a crime-free building or city program, and a lot of cities around the country, they have programs similar to this, right? So what they do is they have these, tenants usually in high crime areas, and some cities, they just want people, because they get a lot of calls to the same apartment complexes about all these different crimes and such going on there. They want to get those tenants out of there that are a problem. So I like programs like this. A lot of people, they don't agree with them, though, down in the city of Tampa. So they've been trying to figure out some way to revamp this program. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of this kind of crime prevention program. If you think it's a good idea or a bad idea. I really do think it's a good idea overall. I don't own any properties in these kind of high crime areas that would need something like that, but I can understand too why they were put into place. So this article comes from usnews.com, and it says, Tampa revamps police program alerting landlords to arrests. The mayor of Tampa says officials will revamp a program that allowed police officers to notify landlords when their tenants had been arrested, even in cases where charges were later dropped. Yeah, so let's see what this article says about the situation. Tampa, Florida. The mayor of Tampa says officials will revamp a program that allowed police officers to notify landlords when their tenants had been arrested, even in cases where charges were later dropped. The decision to reform Tampa's crime-free housing program was announced by Mayor Jane Castor Saturday following an investigation by the Tampa Bay Times that showed police officers were reporting tenants after arrests for misdemeanor crimes and the arrests of juveniles, and that about 90% of the 1,100 flagged by the program were black tenants. So let's dive into that right there, okay? So I'm a law enforcement officer, so I can go a little bit further into these situations than a lot of people realize, okay? So people are like, well, the charges were dropped. Well, here's the thing, and a lot of people don't realize this. The police make a ton of arrests, and charges are dropped for a multitude of reasons, okay? So a lot of the times, charges are dropped, when police will arrest somebody, they will charge them with 4 or 5 different crimes. They get to court, they will drop 4 of the charges, right? And then keep one of them, and, that person will only be convicted of that one crime, and that's just the way it works, okay? So even if they did commit the other 4 crimes, those other charges were dropped kind of like in a plea agreement with the prosecutor, okay? So that doesn't mean that they didn't do the things that were said. That just means that they weren't convicted of that, okay? And that's one of the reasons why, just seeing the charges, just seeing that this person is a problem causer is a big thing. Now, do you really think that the police are going to go up to the landlord and be like, hey, we got this person for one small misdemeanor crime? No, they're going to the landlord and they're saying, hey, this person is always in trouble. We've arrested this person 3, 4, 5 times for doing all this different stuff, okay? And it can be absolutely horrible for the other tenants in that apartment complex because they have a few bad apples in there who are always causing trouble. So just as an example, I've seen people who got arrested for basically domestic violence, and then they got it pled down to a disturbing the peace. So That's an awful thing to happen right there. Or in other domestic violence cases, the cases are dropped completely because the spouse or the significant other of the person didn't want to press charges. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just means that they didn't want to press charges against their spouse or whatever. So this guy, he beat the crap out of his wife, and, the charges were dropped. And then, it's happened 3 or 4 times with the police, yet still, what are you supposed to do? We want those people out of these buildings. We don't want these problems in our buildings. So there is a good reason to, have the police notify the landlord about it. Under the announced changes, the city will inform landlords only about certain serious drugs and violent felonies. Police captain must sign off on notices sent, and landlords will be notified only about arrests that happen on their properties. The program was created in 2013 with the goal of stamping out drug and gang crime in apartment complexes. At its peak, about 100 apartment complexes were enrolled in the program. So yeah, they made a few changes to it. They're only going to be notifying about drug and violent felonies. So that's not a bad thing, okay? But there are a lot of misdemeanor crimes out there that I would like landlords to know about, even if they don't happen on their properties. For example, you could have a lot of misdemeanor theft crimes, okay? So what if you have somebody who is constantly, stealing or breaking into cars? And maybe they got arrested for it over here down the street from your apartment building, but they don't have a felony charge against them. But this person has been arrested for breaking into cars 10 times. Do you want that kind of person in your building, constantly bringing stolen property into your building, maybe eventually breaking into other cars in your building's parking lot? No, of course not. Okay, so that's a serious issue. There's a lot of misdemeanors out there that are serious issues, and I would hate for landlords to not know about them. But hopefully, and this is how landlords should be doing it, they should be doing proper tenant screening beforehand to make sure that they're not letting the wrong type of people into their properties. Now, what I have seen is the case in a lot of these is you'll do tenant screening on the people who you think are moving into the unit, and what you'll find out is that they've got a son or a relative who ends up moving in with them, and this person isn't on the lease. And this person is the one who's causing a lot of these problems, not the original tenant who is on the lease. So yeah, that can be a major, major issue. A son, a boyfriend, somebody else, okay? The program was created in 2013 with the goal of stamping out drug and gang crime in apartment complexes. At its peak, about 100 apartment complexes were enrolled in the program. No Tampa resident should have to live where they fear to let their kids play outside, and this voluntary program has improved the safety and quality of life for tens of thousands of people, Castor said in a statement. Not all the program's critics were satisfied with the announced changes. Well, I like that the mayor thinks it's a good program, okay? She didn't want to completely eliminate the program. That's what they were talking about before. They were talking about completely eliminating the program because they felt it was unfair to a lot of black tenants, okay? But being a black man myself, I know that a lot of areas where these kind of programs are even happening are extremely high crime areas, and unfortunately they are located in black neighborhoods, okay? But as a black man, I would want my neighborhood, the place where I live, to be safe. And if I'm being terrorized by other black people, then that's who you need to, go after. Yvette Lewis, president of the Hillsborough County NAACP, said the program could still violate a renter's civil rights because it can result in an eviction based solely on an arrest. This program needs to be stopped, she said. You're treating housing as though it's a privilege. Well, housing is a privilege, okay? Nobody has a right to housing. Nobody. You have to pay for housing. You have to, it isn't something that is just given to you. And yeah, you should be able to evict on an arrest. If somebody comes in, right, and let's say a tenant comes in with a sledgehammer and just, busts all the windows in every car in the parking lot. Just destroys all the windows in every car in the parking lot of the apartment building, right? They've been arrested for it, but they have not been convicted yet. And they haven't been to trial. They don't have a trial for another 3 months or so. Are you telling me that the landlord doesn't deserve to evict that person? Is that what you're saying? Because that doesn't make any sense, okay? We can evict for just the crime being committed and for the arrest, okay? That's the way it should be, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. So, yeah, interesting change to their rules there. I do believe that these programs do work, and I'm glad that the mayor is standing up for the program and didn't completely eliminate it, though they did make some changes to it that I don't necessarily agree with.